So, all right. Well, welcome to another edition of the Live for Life podcast. As everybody knows who's been following the podcast, I created this podcast to benefit the Maryland Arena Foundation. We're trying to help women and families who are battling metastatic breast cancer. I lost my wife last August. She was diagnosed stage 4, January 2019, and she died August 20th, 2021. So I know the battle, I know the struggle, but today we have a very special guest, Kiana Wooten. Welcome to the podcast. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Jason, for having me.
Yep. Sure.
So I was diagnosed also in 2019 at the age of 34 with invasive ductal carcinoma. Basically, there was like a little lump that I originally thought was nothing. Since in adolescent, I had always been kind of lumpy and cysty underneath my armpits and in my breast. So uh, that's what I attributed everything to. And it wasn't until about 6 months later uh, I noticed I wasn't able to like really move my arm too much. And I went to the doctor, and because of my age, they were kind of just like, it's probably nothing. It's probably just a cyst that grew or ingrown hair. And that's what's causing a lot of your pain. But upon doing the mammogram, uh, actually October 1st is when I officially got the diagnosis of invasive ductal carcinoma, which is very aggressive. So
The same thing that my wife had. Same diagnosis. Is your hormone based? Do you have estrogen positive?
yes.
Okay, same. Yeah, basically the same diagnosis that my wife had. You're very similar to my wife. My wife was 36 years old. 2014. Yeah, so 2014. She wasn't quite 37 yet.
Yeah.
And she was 36 years old, and she went to the doctor. And at the time, I was in the union. I had very good health benefits, and the PA that she was going to just wanted to get a baseline. When she was 35, she wanted to get a baseline. So she fought to get a mammogram done, and they saw two little spots that they were like, we're not really concerned about it, but we're going to do a follow-up in 6 months. And then 6 months later, it was 2014, and they did a follow-up, and the two spots became one spot. And then they were like, okay, we have to do a biopsy on that. And it's very similar to you. She got diagnosed early stage. They did a lumpectomy, couldn't clear the margins, went back in again, couldn't clear the margins again. And we were in the process of moving at this time. Like, we were moving from Rhode Island to North Carolina. I had already moved to North Carolina, and she got diagnosed after I moved. I was moving down here to get settled in before we were going to keep the kids in school for the rest of the year, and then move in the summertime. Well, in the meantime, she got diagnosed, and she did her first 3 surgeries and her first four rounds of chemotherapy in the Northeast with tremendous family support. We were able to still move, keep our timeline pretty much the same. And then 2015 is when she decided, when we moved down to North Carolina, is when she finished her first round of treatments, which was mastectomy, deep flap surgery to reconstruct her breast using her own tissue from her waistline and her hips. They took some from her hips, I think, too. That was when she was, that was with the first time. That was when she was that was when she was no sign of disease. That's what we were told. 2015, and then 2019 it was different. But my wife battled this disease while being a mother, which was very difficult for her. How was your experience been? I mean, I know what my wife went through, but
Pretty much the same. It was very, very difficult. My daughter at the time was 5. So trying to explain to a 5-year-old who's only in kindergarten what's happening, what's going to happen, because I knew once I started chemo, I was going to start to physically look different to her. Um, it was an uphill battle. There were some really hard conversations that I had to have with her that I didn't I never imagined I'd be having with a 5 year old.
Right.
We had never talked about the word cancer, but when I mentioned it to her, she automatically knew it wasn't anything good.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and, she came out and asked me, like, Mommy, are you going to go to heaven? How do I answer that? Because at the time, like, you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
This is all uncharted territory.
Right. So
Yeah.
while you want to say that no, I had to be honest with her. And I had to be honest with myself in that moment. And, I was like, well, we're going to hope that, mommy gets through this, but I don't know. And those are never words I really like to say to her. I don't like not knowing, but sometimes you just don't.
Right. I can't, speaking to my wife as much as I did, we had a lot of time to talk. Obviously, when she was first, no sign of disease, it was more of like, it was gone. From all we knew, she was doing her follow-up treatments that she was supposed to do. Although one of the treatments that she had to do um, post 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 mastectomy, post deep flap was very debilitating. So she didn't do that one for quite as long as they wanted her to, but it was like 80% of what they wanted to do, and then she just couldn't do it anymore. She couldn't
Yeah.
function. So but she did everything that they told her. The only thing that I would say to what I say to people is, this is coming from a caregiver, somebody looking from the outside in. Obviously, watching somebody who I love the most of any, besides my kids, I love my wife the most of any other human being on this planet. And watching her go through this, I would recommend that everybody just be vigilant. The medical field doesn't care about you. They don't care that you're sick. They don't care that they don't care about your family. They act like they do, but they see you're just another patient, and they follow procedures and policies, and insurance companies get to dictate a lot of patient care, and it's not right. And I
Yes.
just tell people to just be vigilant on your scans, and if they say you're not ready for one, say no, I'm ready. I'm ready, because I'm not ready to have the conversation with my child, like my wife and me and my wife, like you said, we had a lot of tough a lot of tough conversations, but the toughest one that we had was with my 10-year-old, who was 9 at the time. And um this is when Marilyn, when we had to put her in, when she went into hospice care. Her liver was failing, and there was nothing that they could do. It was basically like her doctor. We went to her doctor a month before, when she started to take on fluid, and the doctor basically told us she had about a month to live at that point. So we knew we knew what was going on. Her doctor was great. We told him to be brutally honest with us every time. When we're grown ups, we can handle it. Don't sugarcoat anything. Tell us what the deal is, and we'll never have a problem. And that's the way that he was. And he told us, and the hospice people come in, and we had to explain to Zoe that, mommy's liver is failing, and it's because of the cancer, and there's nothing more that we can do, and mommy's done all the treatment that she can do, and it's just mommy's gonna pass away soon. And that's a very tough conversation to have, with with your child. It's that helpless feeling, like you never know what's going to happen. Like, as a caregiver, I don't know how it feels to actually be the patient, because I've never battled cancer myself. I've never had a doctor tell me that I have cancer, so I don't know how that feels. And I used to try to explain to my wife, like, I can't imagine how you feel. You can't imagine how I feel. Let's just chalk it up to, we're both trying to get through this the best that we can. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because this is, like, like you said, uncharted territory, and it's nothing you prepare yourself for growing
Right.
up. No one says, "Hey, when I'm 36 years old, I'm gonna get cancer. I wonder how that's gonna be." Oh my God, I lost you for a second there. All right,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Okay, but no one ever plans to deal with this, and
Right.
it can throw a lot of families for a loop.
Right.
I looked at a lot of your social media, and you're a writer, you're an educator. What going through the like my wife too. She was inspired me to help others. That's why I started this foundation, because she wanted to start one before she passed away. Then her disease just progressed too quickly. What inspires you to help others even when you're going through these tough times? What like makes you do it? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get out of bed in the morning and say, I want to help others? Like,
Honestly, I think about my daughter. I think about her a lot when I do a lot of the writings that I do, or when I'm speaking at different events. Because one thing that we don't talk in families is hereditary diseases.
mhm.
So, with doing the genetic testing, it turns out that I do have the genetic gene in my ATM RNA, which
Okay,
means
okay,
that there's a 50% chance that I pass this gene on to her. You know, children have 50% your DNA, 50% your wife or your spouse, whoever. And
hmm
I think about that because there's nothing that I wouldn't do for my child. And I don't want her to have to go through a lot of the things that I went through if that happens. So it's really just getting the information out there to people about really knowing your family history, getting the genetic testing done, so that that way, if there are things that you can kind of do to do preventative measures, um, I would say do them. I recently just had a hysterectomy, actually May 5th, a day before my 10th wedding anniversary. So, um, because I can, my cancer
you
can
have
come
it.
back.
You have an estrogen based cancer, and it's
Yes.
very aggressive. Very aggressive.
Yes.
Yes.
And people, they don't understand that, or they'll say things like, "Oh, well, you look great, so you didn't look like you were that sick." And I'm like, "Well, what does cancer look like to you? Because cancer doesn't discriminate against age, race, sex, religion. It doesn't discriminate. So,
He does not care.
um, just because I may carry it well, as people say, doesn't mean that the load isn't heavy, and it's still heavy."
Yeah. That's my wife was the same way. She used to say people don't think I'm sick because I these are pictures of her, like, she was stage 4 in that this picture right here. I mean, she was stage 4 in that picture. She was stage 4 in all of these pictures. You would, yeah, she carried herself well. She was a fighter until she had to go back on the IV chemotherapy. Then she lost her hair again and all of that, and then she, looked she appeared to be sick at that point.
Right.
But up up until she lost her hair, you couldn't tell that my wife was sick. You couldn't tell she was taking daily chemotherapy treatments, because she carried herself well, and she didn't want people to look at her like she hated when she went to the doctor, and the doctors and nurses would look at her like they felt bad for her. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, there's sometimes when they're talking to you, like they're looking at you like they know what's going on with you. And we know that she's very sick, that she didn't like she never appreciated the looks that she would get from some of the doctors and nurses and stuff. And maybe it's just they have to deal with people who are sick all day too. I'm sure that's not an easy job to watch people struggling all day either. But I she inspired she up until she got very, very sick, she was always willing to help others too. Like, she really wanted to, similar as you, she wanted to spread the word. She wanted to make sure that people were aware that this is a thing, and it could happen to you at any age. We had a friend of ours who was 32 years old, who got diagnosed the same time as Marilyn did, and she was positive for that gene, the the breast cancer gene, and that disease spread through her body before they could do anything, and she passed away in 2 years. She passed away
Wow.
when she was 34 years old, because it was so aggressive. People, sometimes I feel like people think that breast cancer is not a serious disease because it affects so many people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Right.
some people think it's like, oh, it's breast cancer. It's not that. It's not. it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I used to get that feeling sometimes, and it used to bother me because I used to see what my wife went through, and she wouldn't leave. She wouldn't give on that she was feeling awful. She wouldn't give on that she could barely get out of bed that day. She wouldn't leave. She wouldn't leave that stuff on. So people used to sometimes treat it with a grain of salt. I felt like, and it used to like,
Right.
as a caregiver, that would affect me. You know.
Right.
So moving on to the thing is, I would say is like, I, as I said, I was scrolling through your social media a lot. And this is one thing that I'm going to talk about. This is one thing that I want to talk to you about a lot. Is there was a meme or whatever, a thing that you would post that said, "Behind every strong person is a story that gave them no choice." And my wife used to say to me all the time, because I used to tell her, you're the strongest person I know. I don't know if I could do everything that you do. I couldn't do it. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you still smile. I don't know how you still treat people nice. I still don't know how you get out of bed. I wouldn't be able to do the stuff that you do. And she would always say to me, I don't want to be the strongest person you know. I just want to be normal.
Right.
And like, how do you, because you're an inspiring person. So how do people react to you when you speak to them? Like, how do people?
It's kind of like the same with people reacting to your wife. They're like, "Oh, you went through all of that, and you still want to sing, you still want to dance, you still want to, just be the person that you were before." But here's the issue: I'm never going to be the person that I was before because cancer changes us indefinitely in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to be miserable either because at this point, there's nothing that I can do about it. I could just keep being positive, or I can sit here with all of my sadness and all my thoughts and let that consume me, which I didn't want to do. So it's kind of like I have a reason to want to continue to fight. I look at my daughter. That's the only reason that I need. That is my light at the end of the tunnel. And whenever I feel down, honestly, I take out a picture and I look at her and I see that smile and I see that fire and spark in her eyes because she's very fiery. And I'm like, I'm not doing this for me, so to speak. I'm doing this for her and for generations to come.
Yeah,
And that's kind of like how I look at things, and it's how I get
yeah.
through a lot of things.
What would you say would be the biggest changes that have happened to your life, like just from, pre-diagnosis, post-diagnosis, and now treatment? You've obviously gone through a lot of treatment. You've gone through a lot of treatment, and I think I have to tell you, I think it's amazing. I think it's shows a tremendous amount of self-confidence. Again, I've been scouring your social media, and you have no problem showing your battle. I used to tell my wife, these are all your battle scars. You have battle scars everywhere. She had a roadmap on her body from all those surgeries and lumpectomies and ports and pokes and prods and whatever else they had
Right.
to do. And I used to tell her, like, you, like, these are all your battle wounds. Like, babe, you've been through it. And I just had to mention to you that I think it's really shows your strength, your determination. You're not. My wife used to almost feel sometimes that, like I said, like people would feel bad for her, or she was like felt sickly because she had cancer, and she wasn't. You make it seem like this is what it is. This is what I'm dealing with. This is I'm living my life. I'm happy. I'm truly confident in myself. It takes a tremendous amount of confidence to post the pictures that you post. I just have to tell you that you must inspire countless women. I'm telling, because there's a lot of women who are dealing with what you're dealing with. They mastectomies and losing breasts and dealing with the body dysmorphia and the sense of, like, I know my wife struggled with it. She struggled when she lost her hair. She struggled with her. She used to look at herself in the mirror and say, "This doesn't look like me. I'm not me anymore." And then, but she would still go out and smile. She would still go out and have a good time. She accepted the fact that this was just what she was dealing with, and there was nothing more that she could do. She looked as best as she could. She had the best spirits that she could possibly have. And I think it's truly inspiring. I think she inspired people while she was doing it, and I know that you're inspiring people when they look at your pictures. I don't know what it would do to somebody who is dealing with that, but it must warm their heart to know that there's somebody out there who knows what they're going through. And
Right.
yeah, oh
Um,
man, oh,
I would like to just say real quick that
yeah,
my husband actually encouraged me to post some of the pictures that I took. He was like, if you're going to tell your story and you want it to be authentic, he was like, you really have to showcase your story. This is what you've been through. These are your like you said, your battle wounds. And you
yeah,
have to be proud of them because you've come so far, whereas some women don't make it to even tell their story,
right,
or they're too scared to tell their story, or whatever reason. He was like, so if you're gonna do this, then do it. And I was
yeah.
like, okay, we're gonna do this.
Well, I would say that you are I would say that you are very, very lucky to find a spouse that's as supportive as your husband seems to be, because I know that my wife told me that my the support that I gave her, as just, when you're dealing with a terminal disease, the only thing you can do is just comfort and care. That's it. There's nothing. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trained to deal with something like this. All I can do is provide comfort and care and support. I supported every decision that she ever made, even when she decided she was going to stop doing um, her her chemotherapy treatments. I said to her, me, my wife and I was with her from we were together from July of 2000, July 28th, 2000 to August 20th, 2021. So just a little over 21 years. And I can honestly say we might have had 5 serious fights,
Wow.
serious arguments where we were like mad at each other for like a day. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because the whole time that we were together, we completely understood that we were separate people on a team together, and we weren't going to do anything to hurt each other, and we weren't going to do anything to cause any distrust or harm. We would truly love each other, and we supported each other through anything that we had, through everything that we had to deal with. We both took our vows very, 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 very seriously. Um, and it's it warms my heart to know that you have support like that, because not everybody has that support. Some women that I've spoken to, when they get diagnosed, this significant others leave them.
Yeah.
They say this isn't what I signed up for. Well, actually, if you go back and read the words that you said to me when we were in church, you actually did sign up for this.
Right.
I don't know if you were actually listening to the words that you said, but you actually did sign on for this.
Right.
But some people, and that's why I started this foundation. It was another reason why, because I completely understand that if we didn't have the support that we had going through this, I don't know where me and my family would be right now. We would be in dire straits, because, as you know, treatments are expensive, and the medical field is relentless. They want everything you have. They want your 401k. They want your house. They want your retirement. They want your cars. They want everything, or you're not going to get treatment.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I started this foundation, is try to support others. The education process helps a lot too. Like, it's really hard to survive without support. So again, scrolling through your social media, another one of these memes that you posted that really struck with me. It really struck, like, the ones that we're speaking about, like, touched my heart when I was reading them. Is, one day you will tell a story of how you've overcome how you are now, and it'll become part of someone else's survival guide. What are some of survival tips you can offer women dealing with this disease? Mental, diet, exercise, lifestyle, anything that you've done that made you feel better, combat side effects, whatever.
Well, the one thing that I did, you know, your wife went through chemo, and sometimes appetite is just not there. You don't want to
Yeah,
eat. you just want to sleep. And I made it my duty, since my husband and I are both chefs, so we both know the importance of getting nutrients.
Yeah.
I would make sure that I at least had smoothies on hand before he went to work, so I could just drink smoothies all day. So I'm not really eating, but I'm getting some nutrients in me. Um,
A smoothie is
and
the most efficient way to eat. Just
yes,
just 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 throwing it out there. It's the
yes,
most efficient way to eat food. It's like already digested halfway before you eat it. You do all the hard
right,
work for your body.
right, right. I mean, my husband made sure they were already blended for me, so there are about three in the fridge a day. So
Amazing, man.
yeah,
Amazing.
I would
Give your
just have
husband a high
to.
five for me. Give your husband a high five for me. Say, this is from Jason. He wanted to give you a high five because you're a supporter. He's a man. He's a
Yeah,
man. I meet a lot of men out here who aren't men. They're not men. They're boys acting like men, and it's really, truly, you're one of the lucky ones. Honestly, you really are. You should. You're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones.
yeah. Um, and really just going through the emotions, I feel like that's really, really important on this journey, and not say, I don't want to cry. To know that it's okay to cry, to know that it's okay to have breakdowns, because I feel like holding all of that in is not really healthy. And I did that a lot. And my doctor was just telling me, like, if you feel like you need to cry, it's okay. You're going through something that a lot of people have not gone through. And just allowing myself that space was very helpful for me, and to get out all of my emotions, whether that was with writing or I sing too. So sometimes I would just sing songs to myself. Um, and I feel like that really helped me a lot, um, get through some of the really tough days.
Well, my me and my wife, once she got re-diagnosed, when she was stage 4, and we probably should have started a little sooner. We wouldn't. My wife and I were never really diligent about our health, about our lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, neither one of us were. I mean, there was one point in my life where I was 450 pounds. So, extremely big, like just too big for my, like, I'm a big guy anyway. I'm broad. I'm just a big man. So I can carry a lot of weight and not, people don't even believe how much I weigh when I tell them. They think I weigh a lot less than I actually weigh. I'm just a big guy. You know what I mean? So I can carry a lot like Shaq. Like Shaq can be like 600 pounds and he wouldn't look like he was overweight. You know what I mean? Because he's just a
Right.
big dude. He's got broad shoulders. He's tall. I'm not tall. I'm only six. I'm 6 feet tall, but I know the importance of healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise. It is a thing. It is a thing. I spoke to many doctors, alternative treatment specialists, and professionals in the field that are convinced that they could see similar results to chemotherapy if they could get people to just eat raw fruits and vegetables and just exercise and hydrate themselves and just give their bodies some tools to fight this, because you got to have a two-front war.
Right.
It's very, very, if I could go back in time and change one thing, I would definitely change me and my wife's lifestyle from 2015 to 2019 a
Right.
little bit. I would have tweaked little things, maybe eat a little less sugar, hydrate more, definitely exercise more. Sweating is the most important thing. Detox your body, detox your cells. I know. Do you do heat therapy at all? Do you do saunas or steam rooms at all?
I do. I try to make time at least once a month to go and get a body massage, and then I go into like the steam rooms, and then I'll go into
Yeah.
like the cold rooms.
Yep.
And that's really important too. And like you
Oh,
said,
yeah. You want to like regenerate your cells. There's a lot of
right,
science behind this now, and I think people aren't aware of it. They're not aware
right,
of what is truly beneficial to help you battle some of these side effects, or just battle cancer itself. Just make your body strong enough where yeah, you can still have cancer active inside of your body, but your immune system's so strong that you can just deal with it. You know what I mean? It'll be more of like a
Right.
chronic thing, and not so much a terminal thing. You know,
Right.
because they
Exactly.
don't have an effective treatment for stage 4 yet.
Right.
Can't stage 4 metastatic. They don't have an effective treatment for it yet, and it's science has to catch up. They finally are starting to make some strides, but I think everything that I've read, or all the research that I've done, was still about a decade away from anything that's going to be substantial.
Right.
So
And
hopefully they can develop some better treatments to extend people's lives. But right now, my wife was average lifespan from stage 4 diagnosis to death is 33 months. My wife was 33 months, almost exactly 32 change. So I mean, it's, and and that's why it's important to be diligent. You need to be diligent with your scans. You need to be diligent with everything that you do. Don't let them tell you that, oh, you don't need it yet, or the insurance company is going to pay for it. Well, I'm sorry, but the insurance company doesn't have to take care of my child. The insurance company doesn't have to provide for my family. Do you know what I'm?
absolutely.
They are bad. They are the fact that this country allows insurance companies to dictate healthcare is puzzling to me. It really is. It's baffling.
Yeah, I actually had to get on the phone with the insurance company. I had to have multiple surgeries because I kept developing sepsis with, I was young and I wanted boobs. So, with the implants, my body just kept rejecting them
Yep.
twice. And, the insurance didn't want to pay the bill because now they were considering it cosmetic. Well, guess what? You're going to pay this bill. I'm not going to pay this bill. I work and I pay to having health insurance, and it's just like, who are you to tell me? Even with the original mammogram, um, they didn't want to pay for the 3D mammogram, which obviously I guess must cost more. But I had this dense breast, so they needed to do the 3D mammogram to see a little bit more. Guess what? You're going to pay for that mammogram. You know, like the you're already going through so much. You shouldn't have to fight when insurances too, because I'm like, the doctors are ordering these tests for a reason, and who are you to
Yep.
tell me that I can't get this test?
Right.
It became a very frustrating process sometimes.
It was frustrating for me and my wife to constantly get letters from the insurance company explaining to us why they might have rejected a treatment, or why there was a delay, or like what. And I would say that I would call her doctor's office and be like, why do you allow the insurance company to dictate the treatment that you want to provide for my wife? Like, who is there at the insurance company that knows my wife's health better than you, considering that you're the doctor looking at her? So why aren't you on the phone like, hey, I'm pretty qualified at my job. The last time I checked, I kind of know what I'm doing here. So maybe you can tell Johnny Pencil Pusher, who's looking at the bottom line, that I don't care about the bottom line. Okay.
Right,
And I just want to get the right treatment for my patient, because I actually care if my patient lives
right,
or not. You don't care. You don't want to pay bills. Okay. The insurance company, as soon as you get sick, they want you to die like the following month. The, they don't want to pay for treatment.
no,
They don't want to hear about treatment. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about any expenses. So it's like anything they can do to cut a corner, like not paying for a scan, or you being very vigilant. This is why women like you need to be the voices of this movement, telling people how important it is. Don't take no for an answer. It's ultimately your life. You can't, and even delaying some treatment could cause your disease to progress to the point where maybe now that treatment's not even available anymore. Now we got to do something else. And
right.
now we got to wait. Now we got to wait again, because now we need further testing. And now your treatment gets delayed even more. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what they do to people. But moving on here, after telling, so you reached out to us through the Wheat and White Bread podcast, right? You reached out to
Yes.
the wheat bread pot. Have you been watching the podcast? We haven't posted in a while. I'm in the process of changing my social media guys, like I'm gonna start doing a lot of this stuff myself. It's just extremely expensive to pay people to do this stuff for you.
Right.
So I had a limited time where I could pay for it to get started, but now we're gonna start to post again. Have you watched any of the
Yeah,
episodes?
I have.
Do you
And
like the podcast?
I actually do like the podcast. I like
All right.
I like you two together,
Yeah.
which kind of drew me into you, you know, reaching out to you. And I was like, oh. And at the time, I had no idea about your wife, by the way. And
Right.
I maybe it was just coincidental, or
Yeah.
it was something that made me say, let's reach out to him. And we could
Well,
just
I'm so glad you did, because your story is just like resilience, confidence, inspiration with your photos. And now that I know a little bit more about your family life, I know now your family definitely appreciates your strength and your determination. I know your husband, you seems like you have a very, very loving marriage. Like I said, you're one of the lucky ones. But what impact has cancer had on your marriage? Like, I know with me and my wife, she was always feeling like she was like sometimes a strain on the family with her treatment and the payments and all of this stuff. And I used to tell her, babe, this is just life, babe. This is what we're dealing with. If I was dealing with it, we'd be doing the same stuff.
right.
So how has it affected your family life?
I could definitely relate to the strain part. I kind of in the beginning felt like a burden,
Yes.
um, constantly apologizing for not feeling well on certain days, or not being able to interact with my daughter the way that I used to, or how I wanted to. Uh, really not feeling, let's be honest, not really feeling like being intimate with my husband, because I just in my head I was like, oh my God, I look disgusting. I don't look like a woman anymore. Like, I have all these scars everywhere, and it was a lot for me to try to deal with. And when he would say things to me like, babe, like, I didn't fall in love with you because of your breasts. Let's be honest. He's like, you really didn't have any to begin with. So, um, he was like, so please don't feel that way. And I'm like, I don't feel like you're attracted to me, or it was just me feeling that way about myself.
Mhm.
And I feel like I needed so much reassurance from him that we were going to be okay and that we would be able to move past this point. And I feel like our marriage has actually been a lot stronger since this incident, as crazy as it sounds.
You're right. Well, that's it. Through. Well, and that's what happens with people who love each other. When you go through something that's life changing, when you go through that, when you get through it, on the other side, you usually are stronger. People who don't, and then there's the other side of the coin where people leave, and then the woman is there, or the man who's, because sometimes it's not always, we're specifically talking about breast cancer, but I mean there are men who have got diagnosed with cancer, and the woman leaves. You know what I mean? And it's just like that. That is the I don't know. I don't have any. I can't have respect for something like that. I really can't, because I know that my wife wouldn't have done as well as she did if I wasn't there to support her.
Right,
She wouldn't have, even though she, ultimately lost her battle. She would have had a much more difficult time if I wasn't there to support her the whole time. And I know you'll probably vouch for the same thing. And listening to your story is like an echo chamber of the conversations that me and my wife would have, as far as like, she had the same thing, body dysmorphia. I don't feel like you're attracted to me anymore. I don't feel like I'm beautiful anymore. And she was she was the most beautiful person I've ever met. And I met a lot of people, but she was just amazing. She was just an amazing person, but she did have those self-confidence issues that plagued her, because of, she looked in the mirror. No one is more of a critic of you than you, when you're looking in the mirror, when you get out of the shower and you're doing your hair and you're looking in the mirror and you see yourself from all different angles, and you're like, what is going on right now? This doesn't look like
right.
me anymore. 10 years ago, I'm looking at a completely different picture. You know what I mean? And now it's
Right.
like, how can this person still be attracted to me when I looked like this when we met? And now, but ultimately, like I used to tell my wife, and it's the God's honest truth, like your husband tells you, babe, I love you. I don't, how you appear doesn't, that's what you're dealing with because you're looking in the mirror. And I couldn't understand what she was dealing with because I didn't have the stuff done to me like she had done. She was surgically altered in a lot of ways. She had a
Yeah.
lot of surgeries, and you've gone through a lot of surgeries, and your body looks completely different. And for you to speak out and tell, it's, you have a supportive husband. You have to show women who don't have that support. Like it's you're beautiful. It doesn't matter that you've been sick once in your life, or you're sick and you're going through treatments. That doesn't matter. How you treat people, how you treat others is ultimately what is all I care about. You know what I
Right.
mean? I care about your intentions. I don't care about anything else as far as when I'm, determining whether a person is a good person or a bad person.
Right.
I don't care about any of that. I care about your intentions and what you're ultimately trying to do here. And what I see from you is you're using your life experience to show others that, yes, even though you can be down in the dumps, you can have all this doubt and self confidence issues, and you've gone through it. You just said you've gone through it all, but then talking to your husband and you yourself, your own inner inspiration, you took pictures of yourself and put them on IG for everybody to see. You put them on social media, the whole world. Anybody can scroll through your photos and see you.
Right.
And I know, as like talking on social media, I have a lot of I have a TikTok account, and once you put yourself out there, you put yourself out there for
Right.
everyone can comment, and anyone can comment on it. And there's a lot of there are a lot of hateful people out there, and there are a lot of people out there who are miserable, and they're only happy making other people miserable. And
Mm-mm.
fortunately, there's people like us on the other side of the coin trying to spread some positive energy.
Right. One of the craziest things is that I actually had someone DM me, and this is someone that I've known since probably like sixth grade, seventh
Yep.
grade, and they know everything that I've gone through, and they said to me, basically like I was just seeking attention, and they're tired of me, putting up things that I'm doing and things like that. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm just trying to live here and just trying to tell a story that can, you don't know, maybe one day help you. Not that I'm wishing anything bad on anyone, but things do happen. And originally I was gonna block them, but you know what? I said, well, if you think you're mad now, I'm gonna keep you as my friend. You'll have to block me because now I want you to see everything that I'm gonna be doing.
You thought
Because
I
that's
was
how,
you thought I was trying to inspire you before.
huh,
Wait now. Wait
right.
now.
You're really
Challenge
going to be angry.
accepted.
So, I mean, it's weird. People are so weird. I'm like, why would you write that to someone?
Listen,
And, I don't get it.
people have disagreements with my opinions. I'm very opinionated when it comes to social media. As you know, you've watched the podcast a couple of times, and I don't know if you've gone on my TikTok account at all, but people get, you know what it is? They don't agree with you, so they try to what I say probably makes them feel bad about what they're doing. I
Hmm.
speak a lot about women's rights, social injustice, racial injustice. I speak about all these hot topics. You know what I mean? And I have a very common sense approach to things. And sometimes it gets under people's skin because it's really hard to argue with logic.
Right,
So what people do is they go low. They go super low to try to get you to go low. You know what
right.
I mean? And it tries to
Hmm.
make you mean yourself. Like, you take away from yours. I'm not going to take away from my character because you don't know how to speak to people. You know what I
Right.
mean? I've had people who put comments on my stuff that said that they were happy that my wife passed away. They were actually thrilled. They were excited that she finally passed away.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there were people that have sent me comments that said that it was my wife's fault that she passed away because she decided to stop doing chemotherapy. E- Even though, see, but they don't know the other side of the coin. When she decided to stop doing chemo was because she couldn't get out of bed anymore.
Hmm.
Because she couldn't live like a human being anymore.
Right.
Because she was destituted to the bed to the couch, and I had to help her from the bed to the couch, and then I had to help her back from the couch to the bed. She was not living a life. She was living a life of just laying on the couch and laying
Right.
in bed because that's all she could do. You know
So
what I mean? So
basically,
when
she was
people,
just existing. She wasn't
yeah,
living. She was just existing.
yeah, existing, and she didn't want my kids to have that lasting image of her just on the couch. So she decided to stop doing chemotherapy. And you know what? A month after she stopped doing chemotherapy, she was going for 45-minute walks all through the neighborhood. We were doing alternative treatments. It seemed to be going well, and then boom, it flipped. And when it flipped, it really flipped. And when it really flipped is when it was a month from when, I mean, we were on a beach trip. I'm talking July 4th to July 11th, 2021. We went on a beach trip, and we went for walks on the beach. We went to the beach every day, and she was fine. She had a little stomach pain, but she always had a little stomach pain. You know what I mean? Always. And then a week after that is when I had to bring her into the hospital when she had her first signs of taking on fluid. She was in the hospital for 3 days. We went to her doctor the following day, and that's when he told us that she had about a month left. So
Wow.
it progressed very, very quickly. Like, she wanted to start a foundation. Like, my wife, like I said, she was awesome, and she was getting nervous. She's like you. She was a go getter. I want to go. If I got to get something done, I'm gonna get it done myself. And she was getting nervous. We kids were going back to school, and she wasn't gonna have anything to do. I was working, like I told you. I used to have a small site contracting company that unfortunately COVID took down, but that's another story for another day. But sorry for another. I wanted to ask you. You said you got diagnosed in 2019. Before I just mentioned COVID, and
Hmm.
I know that we were talking about my wife and you. Now you obviously are high risk for COVID.
Yes.
Um, what was your COVID experience like? Like
Oh man, that was a really tough time. That was probably the toughest time, only because so I started my treatment right in the beginning of COVID. And I think I had one session where I had one person with me, and then COVID really hit. And I'm doing chemo sessions by myself because they wouldn't let anyone else in the hospital. So I'm basically there for 6, 7 hours, throwing my guts up. So weak. I have nobody to talk to. I have no one there to hold my hand and kind of get
Yeah,
me through the day. And then the school shut down,
yeah,
and now the kids are at home doing virtual. I'm trying my best to, on those days I didn't have chemo, not to throw up or have to
yeah,
run to the bathroom. My husband actually wind up quitting his job so he can stay at home with my daughter
yeah,
while she did virtual learning and kind of look after me. Um, it was really really tough. It was super
yeah.
tough, and you know, I work in a healthcare setting, even though I'm a chef, and I was scared to death. Even, my husband was working even before this, and I was scared to death. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I get it, what's going to happen? Am I going to die? I thought about those things. And
No, every time we went to the hospital,
yeah,
every driving to the hospital, my wife would say, she would always say the same thing. I'm fucking around, doing all this treatment, trying to get better. I'm gonna go to the hospital and get COVID, and I'm gonna die from COVID.
right.
She's
That's
like, "What is this? I gotta go to the hospital now and sit in a waiting room. I'll go here." Like, when we had to go into the hospital, it was because we couldn't handle her symptoms at
yeah,
home. We couldn't manage her symptoms at the house anymore, and it was when she was in. My wife was a very strong woman. She did not like to go to the hospital. She, and like you, I'm sure you'll speak for this. Well, people who are dealing with a disease like this, you're constantly at the doctor. You're constantly at a specialist. You're constantly at an infusion center. You're constantly at the radiation clinic. You're constantly doing something where you're at the hospital is the last place that anyone who's dealing with any type of disease wants to be. The
Right.
last place. Like, it's like my wife used to be so mad when she'd be like, we have to go to the hospital. Damn it. And she'd be like, we have to go. And it was only a few times that we went, and it was horrible experiences, honestly, with COVID, because you don't know how my wife would react. I don't know. She, unfortunately, she never got COVID. You know what I mean? But I don't know how she would have reacted to it. We lived we lived a life of in the house.
Right.
I went to the grocery store. We kept our kids at home. Like, when it first started hitting hard, the doctors told us, like, it's you need an immune system for your immune system to be compromised. You don't even have one to be compromised, so you need to really be careful, because you don't have anything in your body that's going to fight this.
Right.
Until the vaccine came out, the vaccine was like a ray of light. We can finally go outside. You know what I mean? Like, it was like we finally traveled. We did a RV trip summer of 2020 because it was safe.
Right.
I was trying to rack our brain, like, how can we travel safe? And I'm like, babe, why don't we'll rent an RV. I'll bring it back here. We'll put I'll tell them, don't put anything in it. No plates, no forks, no knives, no nothing. We'll take everything from our house, our sheets, our pillows, our blankets, everything. We'll put it all into the RV. We'll disinfect it before we get in it. And then we'll just live in the RV for the week. We don't have to be around anybody. We can just stay by ourselves. And we went on a beach trip, and we just stayed away from everybody. We spent a lot of time outside, and we traveled during the height of COVID, and we didn't have a problem because of how we did it.
Right.
But who wants to travel like that all the time, though? It was a pain, but it was worth it. But it was a pain. You know what I mean? Like, because of COVID, that's one of the things that changed. People don't even realize someone who doesn't have a family member that's dealing with an immune who's at high risk. It seems like people were just oblivious to it, and it was weird. It was weird.
It is. People are like, oh, well, it's just like a cold. I'm like, you don't understand. A cold for you and a cold for me, we're going to have two separate outcomes. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
My cold is going to be severe, where you may just have like a little runny nose, like, but they didn't get that.
There's over 1 million people died in this country. 1 million. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of families. Like, I know when my wife passed away, it sends a shockwave through your family. Your family will never be the same. Our family will never be the same because Marilyn's not here.
Right.
How can it possibly be the same? You know what I mean? So it's like 1 million families, and that's just from COVID. 1 million families, little shockwaves all over the world, all over the country. It affects so many people that they don't even realize. And, like, be respectful. Like, that's what I was telling people. Just, like, be respectful of what other people are dealing with. I think in this country, all of our issues could possibly be resolved if everybody just respected other people's lives and understood that everyone's just trying to live. It's hard enough to just live.
Right.
It's hard to live. Why does all these people out there trying to make it constantly harder for everybody to just live a happy life? I don't get it.
Right,
I don't get it.
Exactly.
I never have, and I don't think I ever will. But, well, what I wanted to say. Do you have any social media you want to promote at all, or anything like that, or your pages? Or do you have any upcoming, like, events or anything? Like, I don't know how many people this is actually going to reach, but even if it reaches 10, it's better than none. So
right. So you can follow me on Facebook. I'm The Breast Decision. I also have the same name on Instagram. I actually just recently, last week, and I meant to send this link to you. I published my first book about my journey. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
I always wanted my wife to write a book. I told her, you need to write it. She read if my wife didn't read 5,000 books, she never read one. She was constantly reading. She was so smart. She was so, reading in general just makes you more intelligent. She was reading all the time, and I told her, you need to write a book, and I wish that she had. So is it being published?
Yeah, it's already published. It's out on Amazon. I will actually send you the link once we
Send
finish.
me the link. I'm gonna put it
I will.
on my social media for sure, and I'm gonna get a copy. What is it about? It's just about your life, your journey.
It's about my journey, the struggles, the good, the bad, the ugly, but how I wanted to turn things around, and not there be such a, I mean, cancer is negative, so
Yeah.
I wanted
Well,
to give it like a little positive spin, and
well,
and you know.
I'll tell you what. I don't read. I don't read. My wife did all the reading. She did the reading for us. She completed the reading for both of us. I'm not a big read. I've never been. I'm a visual person. But I think I'm smelling a little follow-up podcast after I read your book, and maybe we can further discuss a couple of things after I get the full story.
Right.
Maybe we can do a follow-up. Maybe we can do a follow-up podcast and further get the book out there, because I'm gonna read that. I haven't read many books. I've read a couple, but I will definitely put that one on my list, and
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna and I will reach back out to you. And like I said, I'm not a big reader, so it might take me a little bit, but I will. Send me the link to it, and I will
I
definitely put
will.
it on my social media, and I'm gonna get a copy, and I'm gonna read it, and then we're gonna have a follow up on it, and we can promote it further, because it's your I love that you put yourself out there. I love that you show other women that it's okay to be sick, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to not look like, the cover of a fucking magazine. It's okay to be happy. It's
Right.
okay to just understand that this is part of life, and some people get dealt bad cards and some people get dealt good cards, and it's just. But sometimes the person with, so you watch it all the time. You watch a poker tournament, right? You'll have a guy with pocket jacks, and you'll have a guy with 7-8, and the guy with 7-8 goes all in, and the guy with pocket jacks folds. You know what I
Right.
mean? Sometimes you don't always have to have the best cards, but you can still win the hand. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like
Exactly.
so I think your story really highlights that. That is, I'm excited that you decided to come on the. I'm excited that you reached out, and then I was more excited when you said you would come on the podcast, because I've been looking forward to speaking to you, and after speaking to you, I'm looking forward to speaking to you again. So, and
Oh, absolutely.
next time I'd like to have your husband on standby too, if he wouldn't mind coming on and answering just a few questions about how the caregiver roles are, and what he's seen through, is because that's important too. Like, you
Right.
know, that caregiver role is crucial.
It is.
Whoever your caregiver is, whether it's your child or your aunt or your cousin or your friend or your husband or your parent, whoever,
Right.
that caregiver role is like your personal little cheerleader to, you know, push you that extra distance, to get you to take that extra, to do that extra treatment that you don't feel like doing, to take the pictures and put them onto IG that you probably were second guessing yourself about, and
Yes.
and it's just like, and but you felt comfortable after your husband was like, put yourself out there.
Yes.
You're gonna you're gonna help somebody. So, and
Right.
I thank you for that. I really do. You're helping people that you don't even know. You don't even know. So, but I thank you for your time. I told you I would be right about an hour. See,
You
well,
did.
I'm right on time. So I thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story, and hopefully inspiring some women to feel a little more positive about themselves while they're dealing with this. So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Jason, for having
Yes,
me. It's
yes,
been
and I
great.
will be in touch for sure. I'm going to read that book, and then we're going to come back on and do a recap. I'll
Okay.
send you a script. I'm going to
All
send you a
right.
script about things that intrigued me in that book. So, but I'll be in touch, and we're gonna wrap up another episode here. And if you're a return subscriber, thank you. If you're just joining us, you picked a great episode to start with. So hopefully this inspires you to watch further episodes. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. This is all to benefit the Maryland Arena Foundation. You can check out the website, the MarylandArenaFoundation.org. We're just trying to help women and families who are battling this horrible disease, giving them some support, and this is ultimately going to help somebody. So
Yes.
I thank you for your time, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Thank you,
All right,
Jason.
all right. Thank you. See
Bye
you.
bye.
See you, Kiana.